Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. We are 11 days away from kickoff. That just seems too crazy to even believe, but it is almost here. Tell us who your favorite number 11 is. Tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking. Get your questions in. We'll get to those here in a little bit. But, guys, first, I'm going to run y'all through some number 11s here.
Wow. It's a big list, guys.
A guy we've had on the show many times.
Yeah.
I think it starts with him. I think it starts with him on defense for sure.
For sure. And then we're going to jump over to offense here with Major
How's
Apple.
South Alabama treating you right now, Major?
I don't know, but Leonard Davis got 15 yards for hands to the face.
See that in the background.
Then we're going to go over to another quarterback that wore number 11, guys.
There we go, Sam.
Yeah. And
Good
then
stuff.
a few more. There's so many good ones that wore 11. Going back to the national championship game here in Ramont's Taylor. One of the most electrifying. And then Ricky Williams wore number 11 his freshman year.
Freshman year. Look at those Reebok jerseys, Rod Babers. Matt Brown said, Rod, we're not going to be wearing Reebok when you get here. We're going to wear Nike. So look at those Reebok jerseys. Crazy thing about Ricky, one night I was watching LHN and the game at Hawaii was on. And Bobby, do you know who was doing sideline in that game? Kirk Herbstreit before he made it big.
Was he really?
Yep.
I think Ricky's very first run, like in the first quarter, he had like a 60-yard gain. Like, well, he looks different. It went real hard on that one.
And then we'll go more current. Bobby, one of your favorite players on this year's roster.
Yeah. Yeah, Silas is going to be a little he's going to be a breath of fresh air. I really believe that, guys. I think that's the position he's got on this team. He's just got a little more wiggle, a little more juice. Doesn't mean the other guys don't have some of that too. I just think he's an all-out player, every down kind of guy that I think some fans will likely fall in love with. That's my prediction for Silas Bolden.
And then one more.
Nah.
I'm out now. Is that
Colin Simmons? It's a little photoshopped, I think, but Colin Simmons nonetheless wearing the number 11. So a little early preview of what you might see in 11 days.
Yep, people love predictions. I'm going to go with a wild prediction. That number he's wearing will be the number of sacks he has his second year at Texas, sophomore year.
There we go. There we go. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff.
Well, practiced yesterday. Sark met with the media afterward. Bobby, let's start with you. What were your takeaways from that?
Oh, I think that my first takeaway is he's still looking for a running back. He said that they're still even looking in the portal right now for an additional running back. There's probably not one out there, Coach Sark. I got news for you, or else he would have already been snapped up. But they're looking, and they're also they could actually take a grad transfer as well that could enter the portal. Who might that be? That could actually impact Texas. I don't have a clue at this point. Also, I think that he talked a little bit about how Quinn Ewers is growing as a leader on this team. I thought that was interesting. His take on it was, and actually an example he gave was Quinn deciding to lead a players-only meeting prior to a practice last week, which I thought was interesting. Not much going there as far as anybody else necessarily leading, as much as what I'm talking about with Quinn stepping up and being one of those guys. And he thinks that Quinn is doing that job right now as part of it. Herky Walls, Major Applewhite, Duke Carlisle, another name that is a Longhorn legend as well, that wore the number 10. Jerry, what were your takeaways from Sark's presser yesterday?
Couple things to follow up what you talked about. Sandman 23 says, players only meeting LOL. That's all I wanted to say. This was I am taking leadership in year 3 players only meeting. Most of the time, players only meetings are after bad losses or subpar performance or a loss to your rival, which you needed a reboot. This was more of, we've had a couple injuries here. Let's make sure we stay the course. here. Everything's great. We have a really good team. I believe in all you guys. This was the leadership players only meeting before a season. This is not a anything bad players only meeting. So this was the leadership step for Quinn Ewers. I thought it was really good to hear. On the running backs, I want to say this. So Texas likes the running backs they have, but they also know they haven't played a game yet, right, Bobby? So somebody's getting nicked up again. You've lost 2 before the season. So Texas, Sark Banks out there looking for a potential grad transfer or running back addition is more not because they don't have confidence in who they have, but because they know it's a long season and guys are going to get nicked up. That's just the nature of the position. These guys are bigger, stronger, faster hitting you nowadays. And while you're bigger, stronger, faster, it doesn't keep up with how big, strong, and fast the defensive players are hitting you nowadays. So it's more of a depth. It's more of seeing if they can make sure they have the depth they want at the position. Has nothing to do with Jaden Blue, Trey Wisner, Jarrett Gibson.
Okay, well, a lot of big decisions coming up in recruiting, Jerry. I know we kind of touched on this yesterday, but what's the latest that you have there?
Yeah, I think we have. Do we have the graphic of the commitment dates coming up? Yeah, so we have Michael Fasusi on coming up tomorrow. That's the 21st. All signs point to Oklahoma there. That's where the trend is with Michael Fasusi. I can say though, look, he hasn't stopped communicating with the other schools yet. So he hasn't told the other schools. He hasn't told them if he's going to do that. That would probably be tonight or tomorrow before his announcement. But look, he was going through regular recruiting calls still with the colleges under consideration on Sunday. Even some film breakdown from Louisville practices or scrimmage and whatnot. So the recruitment has gone on, even though I think he has a good idea where he's going. Jonah Williams is on Nick Brooks, the 23rd. I think there's still some confidence there for Texas on Nick Brooks. I think Georgia obviously is the other player. USC is the 3rd team on the list. I think USC would surprise maybe everybody recruiting him at this point. But I think there's continued to be really good communication with Texas in last couple of weeks, as there has been. It's been steady. There's really been no change there. Does that mean Georgia can't win? I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is Texas still has reason to feel good about that recruitment a couple of days out, but we'll see what happens. Jonah Williams, Aiden Anning on the 24th. I think Jonah Williams, the question I've always had with this, and I'm a broken record on this, is he going to leave? Is he going to be the first person in his family to leave state for college? And I think the closer we get to that decision, the less I believe he'll be the first. Could he? Maybe. We're still a few days out from that decision, but I think the Texas football, baseball, and academic combination is a positive one in Williams' circle. So I think Texas has a good shot there. Aiden Anning, I think there's a big push in the Ruston area for LSU with Aiden Anning. I think Arkansas has done a really good job. You give credit where credit is deserved. Arkansas, and talking all the times I've talked to Aiden Anning, has done a tremendous job recruiting Aiden Anning. I actually believe if Arkansas was an 8-4 team, that's probably where he'd already be committed. But I think there's some hesitation there. I think Terry Joseph, Blake Gideon have done a good job recruiting him, and we'll see what he does on the 24th. I'll say this: even if he doesn't pick LSU, I don't even think LSU really cares at this point. They still have an official visit. They know they can get him on campus for a game. So that recruitment would go on no matter who he picks. I do believe that, like most of them, but I think that's different when LSU still has an official visit and they can still get him on campus for a game and about any time they want. But I think there's some push in that Ruston area for LSU there. Jamie French on August 30th. Still think Texas has the best relationship there. Miami's the number 2 team. Then Tennessee and LSU are under consideration there. I think Texas has done a really good job in that recruitment as well. Michael Terry, think Texas leads Nebraska there and Oregon. When he will decide could be September. I'm not sure he's in a big rush to decide until maybe midway through his season. So we'll see Madden Faramo, to be determined, could be later. I think Notre Dame is out in front there, and I think Johnny Nansen has Texas in a position where they just got to keep staying the fight. I think the longer the decision plays out, the better it may be for Texas, but that doesn't mean Texas will win it.
Jerry, let's go back. Put that graphic back up, because you actually wrote an article this morning on Texas football where you actually also gave some percentages for these players and Texas's chances. Let's just be straightforward here and give the folks what you said for all of these guys, starting with Fasusi. You gave Texas roughly a 30% chance compared to OU's 65, I believe. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I don't have it. I don't have it out in front of me, but I think that's correct. Yeah.
Gotcha. And you went Nick Brooks. You felt pretty strong about Texas there, plus 50% going into it. Same with Jonah Williams, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, I think. I could easily be wrong. Wake me up when one of those kids goes out of state. They haven't done it yet, and his father stayed in state. So we'll see. That means LSU can't win the recruitment, but LSU has 4 defensive backs committed now, 2 for sure safeties. DJ Pickett or Cade Phillips could also be a safety. It's not a lock; those guys are corners. So not that Jonah Williams doesn't even compete with anybody. I'm not saying that, but I am saying numbers sometimes affect recruiting a little bit. I think Jim Schlossnagle coming to Texas has been key too.
Okay, so of the 7 players here, you have Texas right now with greater than 50% on 4 of them.
Yes.
Nick Brooks, Jonah Williams, Jamie French, and Michael Terry. And that should give people a bigger taste of exactly where you're at on these.
And here's the reality: if Texas ends up getting 3 of those 4, it's like that's pretty good. These are all national recruitments, right? I mean, you hope you're right on all of them, but the reality in recruiting is, if you hit on a high percentage of them, you're doing well. No different from a coaching staff. In reality, none of these guys get them all. But that's the. That would put if Texas got 3 of the 4, they're firmly inside the top 10 classes. If Texas got all 4 of those guys, I'm just telling you, they're sitting there with like the number 4 or 5 ranked class, and with 4 or 5 guys left to add to that class during the season. So I think Texas could get up to 24 in the class. Right now they're at 16. So that's it's crazy to think about. But I think this is what a fan base maybe has to get more accustomed to at times is there. If you're in national recruitments of 50 plus players and you end up getting 22 of those guys, that's actually really good. Again, the class rankings, one thing, filling needs are the other. Texas at defensive back and defensive line has some work to do in this class. That's, to me, to fill out all those needs is going to have to be senior evals, offers, guys that are committed elsewhere. Those are going to play out in November leading up to December 4th for me.
Hey, real quick, guys, we have a super chat that I want to get to while we're on this subject here. And Longhorn Frenzy 1, thank you for the super chat. He says, Jerry, your article from this morning, you have 65% chance that Jonah commits. Can you explain the 65%? Has Texas made that big of a move?
Yeah, look, I just kind of went over that, but that the in-state thing, we'll see on that. Neither Texas or A&M have a safety committed right now. I do think, look, the baseball change, Jim Schlossnagle to Texas is impactful for a kid that wants to play college football and baseball. I do think that's impactful. We'll see which way it goes Saturday. 3 days out. It could change, but I think things have been trending well. By the way, Leon George asked about Myron Charles. Where I'm at on Myron, Texas still has a lot of contact with a lot of these guys. My key with Myron Charles, he has to get back on campus during the season. Like Texas got Sharma back on campus there before he flipped. Myron Charles was supposed to be in that weekend, didn't make it in. They're going to have to get him back on campus during the season, and then we'll have more to talk about.
We got a special guest coming up here in a little bit, guys. Brian Robison, 2005 national champion, joining the show with us this morning. He's going to be checking in. We got a bunch of other stuff coming up, including a little volleyball and women's softball talk, and going to ask ourselves the question, is this the golden age of Texas athletics? Is this the golden age of Texas athletics? Both teams, women's volleyball and softball, checking in at number 1 in preseason polls released yesterday. Blake and Jerry, take it away with a couple of ad reads before we get to Brian here, who's up next.
Yeah, I'm going to start here and let everybody know about HelloFresh. And with HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. You can skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. We all know that home-cooked meals are so much better for you, but you don't always have time to pull them off. But with HelloFresh handling all the meal planning, the shopping, and most of the prep, it's easier than ever to get dinner on the table quick and painless. That's what makes it great. It's quick and easy. With school now going on, my wife and I, we both use HelloFresh because we simply don't have a lot of time. And their menu is always changing. You don't get tired of eating the same thing because there's over 50 recipes to choose from. And here's the best part. HelloFresh is going to hook you guys up with free breakfast for life. All you have to do is go to HelloFresh.com/freeontexas. You'll receive 1 free breakfast item per box while your subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life just by going to HelloFresh.com/freeontexas. And that's HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. And guys, if y'all are ready, I'll go ahead and bring Brian on in. Jerry, I'm going to let you Bobby, I'll let you make the introduction here.
Yeah, this is a guy that needs no introduction to Longhorn fans. Brian Robison, national champion out of the great Splendora, Texas, originally way back in the day. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing well, man. Just sitting here at our little local coffee shop, The Gathering, having me a little coffee this morning.
Good for you. Tell people what you're doing these days. You retired from the NFL. You're coaching a little football, I believe. Tell people what's going on with you.
Yeah, man. Been busy the last couple of years doing, Texas Game Day, and obviously Longhorn Network has gone away. So coaching Little League football here in our hometown of Belleville, Texas, doing youth football. So we had our first game this past week. And other than that, running a tackle shop and got my daughter started cross country, so I've been dropping her off at school at 6:15 in the morning. So I'm pretty much running everywhere.
I love it, dude. Hey, I got to talk to you, Brian. You've got a lot of stuff going on. Are you teaching those kids how to pass rush very well?
So we've got one kid for sure that has it figured out, and it's funny. It's his first year, and we put him in 3-4 last week, and he pretty much took over the game in the second half. But yeah, we're doing our best to teach them how to get after them, especially in the run game. At this age, they don't pass as much, but we got some run stoppers.
Brian's going to join us for several post-game shows. Myself, Rod Babers, on the post-game show for On Texas Football. Brian, I got to ask you, man, your time in Longhorn lore is punctuated probably by that stop against Lindale White and the USC Trojans. Then you went on after that and had a long NFL career, very productive. What did you take away from the university during your time there that you've carried forward the rest of your life so far?
Man, a lot, honestly. Like it would be hard for me to narrow down one day. I mean, I know when we were there, Mac Brown he would always preach, it's more important to be a good person than it is to be a good football player. And so that's what I've always tried to do. Is I've always tried to leave there staying humble and always helping out the communities that I've been in, whether that's in Minnesota, whether that's here in Belleville now, going back to Austin, always trying to be a part of the community and being humble and just kind of treating myself as anybody else. I used to tell people all the time when we played in Minnesota, like, I'm no different than anybody else. I've just got a glorified job. And that's the way I've tried to live my life. And I learned a lot of that at the University of Texas.
Hey, Brian, thanks for joining us. A question to piggyback off of what Bobby was talking about. Fans have probably watched the national championship game, some of them 100 times. How many times have you watched it?
it was funny. I was just having this conversation the other day with a buddy of mine, and I was telling him, I was like, I've seen bits and pieces of that game over the years, but I have, other than the film review, I have yet to sit down and watch that game all the way through from beginning to end. Man, it's shocking to even think about that. I haven't watched it, but yeah, I have definitely seen bits and pieces of it, but I have yet to kind of sit down and watch the whole thing from beginning and since then.
Hey,
hold on one second. What was the feeling of euphoria on that field when y'all won? I mean, that was like one of the biggest, at least for Longhorn fans, clearly the whole game was this roller coaster ride of emotions, basically. And then to come out on top at the very end, you guys were celebrating on the field. What was that feeling of euphoria that you felt?
Man, it's really indescribable. I mean, you're talking about, 4+ years of hard work that went into that. You're talking about decades of Texas fans wanting that and us being able to deliver that. I mean, you could feel the energy still, even after the game was over, from the fans that hung around, that were there till the very end. And man, it's just one of those deals that when you put that much hard work and effort into accomplishing something like that, accomplishing a dream. Because I remember when we stepped foot on campus, Vince Young and all of us, like as a freshman class, we said, we're going to bring a national championship to the University of Texas. And to be able to realize that dream and make that come true, it was an indescribable feeling. I mean, it was all the hard work, all the effort, all those hot summer days, the 24 110s, all that just kind of was off your back. And it was just one of those feelings that you're just glad you were able to share it with the fan base that we had.
Hey, Brian, I got to ask you a question. I got to put you on the spot. Blake, bring up the Bomar hit picture again. Okay, so here's the question I'm not sure you've ever been asked, but I want to ask you. Not only did you make the hit, but here's the big question. After you celebrated, could you have got up and actually caught Rod right when he was waddling down the field with the ball?
I don't know if I could have caught him that day. Rod was moving pretty quick.
He had his adrenaline going, didn't he?
He had some adrenaline going. He was running faster than I think I've ever seen him run.
Good stuff. What were some of your favorite memories of that rivalry? I mean, I think that y'all did not come out on the top end of it probably the first couple of years you were there, but that game, it was like you exercised some demons against the Sooners.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's really three distinct memories for me. Number one, even though it was a loss, the first year or my sophomore year when we played Adrian Peterson, I mean, being able to kind of witness him on the field and see as a freshman, what he was able to do, that was pretty eye-opening. And then realizing you got to see him for at least the next 2 years after that. So that was pretty eye-opening. And then, of course, the national championship year, that was kind of our hump game. That was the game we needed to get over the hump in order to get to where we wanted to go. And to be able to accomplish that in a dominating fashion, the way we were able to do it was very relieving. And then our senior year, I don't think a lot of people really expected us to be able to go in there and beat them. And for us to be able to go in there and dominate that game once again was obviously a good memory as well.
Hey, a lot of fans may not know, but you still have the state record in the discus. And this is my only old high school question for you. But that record has stood since 2001, too, obviously since your senior year. Talk about how that correlates to football. We talk about this all the time, but for you, how does that correlate to football and carry over in general?
Well, I think a lot of people look at kind of the shot put and discus events as just big guys that are just big and strong and can throw it. But I don't think they realize the agility you have to have in the ring in order to be able to spin in a 7-foot circle, stay in the circle, be able to toss the ball that far, or a frisbee, a big heavy frisbee that far, and I think that speaks volumes of a guy that size being able to have that agility and footwork with it. That's why, honestly, that's why you see a lot of these guys that are great offensive linemen have some sort of throwing background, because they are agile. They know how to move their feet and things like that. And I've always said, hey, you go look at some of these, Olympic class shot putters and discus throwers. I mean, they're some of the most athletic, big people you'll ever see in your life. So I think there's a lot to it.
Brian Robison, national champion, joining us here on Texas Football's Coffee and Football. Brian, you're joining us for the post-game show when you can this fall. We appreciate you very much. What can people expect from your analysis? I've listened to you on Longhorn Network, and but describe how you see the game that might be different than others, and what you plan to talk about most.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I kind of, being that I've done it for, 35 years of my life, I kind of look at it from a different angle. It's hard for me to kind of sit back and just enjoy games. So a lot of times I'm kind of like under a microscope looking at things and stuff like that. So obviously I look from defense and offensive line back. I always look at that. And then I kind of look at important emphasis of the games. We always talk about first downs and third downs and turnovers and all that stuff. That's always been instilled in me since college days and 11 years in the NFL. So I look at the critical areas like that. And then just kind of divulging into really and truly it's hard to know the inner and outer workings of an offense or defense, but you kind of get the gist and the basis of where they're supposed to be at certain times and stuff like that. So that'll be all different things that we'll go through, but I'm really looking forward to this season. I think this team's got a great chance to shock a lot of people in the SEC, and I think they've got the attitude to go with it right now.
We had Stevie Lee and Rod Babers were on yesterday talking a little bit about the culture change that they've seen on the 40 acres. At post-MAC, it almost felt like the culture hadn't flipped back to where you guys had it and built it up to in your time. They say they sense a little bit of that culture change of the expectation of winning. You haven't necessarily been on campus, all that, and going through that like some of those guys have. But do you see that from afar at all with this team and Steve Sarkisian? You think he's got them headed in the right direction?
I do. I mean, I think when you look at when Steve Sarkisian came on campus, I mean, every way that you can look at this football team, they have absolutely changed, made a 180 from when he came in. And that's from a physical stature. That's from a mental stature. When you look at it, this team, I felt for years, just kind of, they played up and down to their competition. Back when I played, and I hate to be that old guy to say back when I played, but back when we played, we didn't play the game just to win. We played the game to dominate and show the world what we were about. And I feel like you're starting to get that out of these teams is they're not there just to be in the game. They're not there just to win the game. They're there to put their stamp of approval and show, everybody that, hey, we're ready for the SEC. Hey, we're Texas football and you're going to have to deal with us for a while. And so seeing that attitude change, I think it showed up last year. I mean, there was a lot of games that people thought were going to be close and they weren't close. There was a lot of games that you kind of in the fourth quarter are like, man, is it going to be one of those games where they can't pull it out and they find a way to get it done? So I think the attitude has changed. I think they've got confidence. And going into this year, just from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing a little bit, they've got a little bit of an attitude. I feel like they didn't accomplish what they wanted to accomplish last year. And they're using that as motivation going into this year.
Brian, what are your thoughts on the edge position going into this season? Obviously, offensive line and pass rush, that edge spot were maybe the two positions that Sark had to address the most when he got to Austin. It's been a while since there was depth at that edge position and pass rushers. Kind of your thoughts on Barron Sorrell, Ethan Burke, the guys returning, and anything you've seen of the newcomers.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the last 2 years, man, when you look at Ethan Burke and Barron Sorrell, I think both those guys have made tremendous strides. And you talk about development in guys. That has been a development for both those guys. Barron Sorrell, as a young guy, I felt like he made a lot of mistakes, maybe peeked inside a little too much, things like that. So in a run game, Alabama was one that really sticks out. The ball was able to get outside. And you just don't see him making those mistakes anymore. Ethan Burke has been kind of a guy that has shown up on the scene, especially last year, and has made tremendous strides. And now you're going to add some of these newcomer guys, Colin Simmons, you're going to add a Colton Vasek, you're going to add a Trey Moore that you got through the transfer portal. So I think they've got tremendous weapons. I think as a group, it's going to be more so about knowing how to rotate these guys in and out to give you your best success on the field, whether it be third down or early in the downs on first down, trying to create negative plays. But I think the edge rush part of our defensive line type group, I think is definitely a strong suit right now.
Brian, thank you so much for joining us. We don't want to take up much more of your time. I think we could take up all day, though, listening to you talk a little football. Hey, do us a favor and give that, wherever you're at right now, give them a shout out, because whatever that is behind you, it's got me intrigued, that little Longhorn or whatever that cow is. What's the name of the place you're at, so people, at least give some people a shout out there?
Yeah, so we're at the Gathery Coffee Shop and Eat House here in Belleville, Texas, and it's actually a Brahma bull. They got a picture here. They got the old 1890 section of the coffee shop, so it's a really cool place. So if you're in Belleville, Texas, stop at the Gathery. They're great people.
Bud, take care of yourself. We'll see you soon. Okay, hook 'em.
All right, thank you. Hook 'em.
Good stuff, man. Brian Robison, good guy, good Longhorn. Tries to do things the right way. He's coaching his kids' Little League football team this year. He said he told me, Bobby, I made it a commitment. I'm gonna coach them every Saturday for 2 years. We'll see what goes on from there. But another great representative of the University of Texas, Jerry.
Absolutely, and he is one of those guys that to me is so interesting. Because people have asked, somebody in the chat asked, was he underrated as a recruit? Yeah, he was underrated as a recruit back in 01-02. He was right before Bobby, the Nike camps and all the camp circuits started. And I've always said this about Brian. And Splendora was not exactly a D1 football factory, okay?
At all.
There was not much foot traffic going through there to look at football prospects back in the day. If he had showed up at a Nike camp or an Under Armour camp nowadays and been 6'3", 225, 230 in high school, vertical 38, ran 4.6 flat or less, and ran a 4.2 shuttle, he'd have shot up into the top 150 recruits in the country.
No, that's true. It's like Lance Jackson right now. He was sitting up there in Texarkana, and all of a sudden he goes to a camp, and he is a top 100 player in the country.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so small school guys. And even if they're on the edge of Houston or whatever, right? They tend to get overlooked unless they're just bonus sized, right? Unless they're Leonard Davis and they show up 6'5", 350 and return kicks. The smaller, or they're smaller guys that put up huge stats, like Terry Bussey, right? Huge stats, did great things. Brian Robison's team at Splendora was not going to the state championship. Right. There wasn't going to be that kind of spotlight on him at all. So, yeah.
Yes.
I love this Patrick Page. Only thing in Splendora are speed traps and state troopers.
Yes, they did. They had a speed trap there. There is no doubt about that. If you're headed up towards Nacogdoches, Lufkin up that way. But yeah, the other thing with Brian is today, I think it would have garnered more attention too. He would have blown up as a recruit because of social media. Anytime somebody's out there throwing a discus over 200 feet, he still has the record in Texas, 215. I think that's the 8th best in the history of the country still in the high school discus ever. And that 215 too has stood since 01-2. That's 22 years. Their track record's going down every year, every other year right now. The 4x100 lasted a long time as well. But that is a huge number in discus. A huge number in the discus. Some of the best guys that I've covered as a prospect, like a Kevin Bookout, who is a really good basketball player at OU, he threw 211. 211. So he's even 4 feet short of that. So that was a huge number. And he would have blown up through YouTube, Huddle, social media nowadays as a recruit, because he would have been out there doing things on the track that got people's attention as well.
You know, the other guy that threw the discus like that, that was a big guy but wasn't too big, was Ron Dane.
Yeah.
Heisman winner from Wisconsin. He threw the discus in high school 216.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a special number. We should have asked him, like, what's his number for what he thinks. Like, I always say a 50-foot shot putter he's got a chance to do really well long-term in college. 180 in the discus has some good athleticism to him naturally. But we'll see how that goes. Good stuff from Brian Robison for sure.
All right, y'all, more to talk about, questions to get to. But first, Jerry, can you tell everybody about Manscaped?
Oh, man, it's that time. Boy, can I. It's the 5.0 is in my hand, guys. Just letting y'all know it's here. It's always with me. It's always with me if I'm on the road, which I will be in a couple of weeks. The handyman's with me. Fellas, do you want your grooming routine to be one and done deal? Kevin Durant style? Well, the days of using the same trimmer for your face and your private parts are over thanks to our friends at Manscaped. They've come up with the ultimate package to keep your hairs trimmed from 12 to 6, introducing the Beard and Balls bundle featuring the Lawnmower 5.0 and the Beard Hedger, a trimmer for the moneymaker and another for those boys downstairs. Get 20% off plus free shipping with code ONTEXAS, all caps, at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with code ONTEXAS, all caps, at manscaped.com. For the premium grooming experience, trust Manscaped. Hey, and also this, just like the lawnmower, you can drop this in the shower, you can throw it in the ocean, whatever. Well, you'll lose it in the ocean, but you can get it wet. It's waterproof. Just like the lawnmower, the Beard Hedger is also waterproof, so you can handle your beard grooming right in the sink or the shower without worrying about water damage. With up to 60 minutes of runtime and an LED charge indicator, you'll never be caught mid-trim with a dead battery. There's nothing worse than that, by the way. Nothing worse. I know we've all experienced it. Manscaped on Texas podcast.
Professional as always, Jerry Hamilton. Thank you. Okay, well, as I said, we do have a lot more to talk about, and some odds came out yesterday.
Oh, boy.
Jerry, I know you're anxious to talk
I'm
about
loving this one.
First head coach fired. Billy Napier at Florida with the best odds, 4-1, followed by Sam Pittman at Arkansas, 5-1, and then Mario in Miami, 6-1. Baylor's Dave Aranda, 7-1, and then obviously there's a lot more listed, but even Brent Venables in Oklahoma, 33-1 odds has made the list. Ryan Day's another notable one at 12-1. What do y'all think about this, and who would you take off this list?
Well, it's interesting that Mario's 6-1. I'm not sure I buy that, but I do think the loser of that game will feel a little heat.
Miami, Florida, you're saying?
Yeah, Miami, Florida. Miami's actually favored in that game by 2.5 right now, I think, which is interesting to me. But I'm not sure I'd have Mario that high necessarily. But he's a down season away from being there. But they have Cam Ward this year. They should take a step at quarterback. I'm not saying he had a great spring. I heard he was up and down a little this spring, but I think he's a proven game guy. Then you get down to the interesting ones for me are at 25-1, 25-1, 33-1, Bobby. Ryan Day at 12-1. That's just a fan base, right? I mean, look, he's been in a college football playoff. I get it. If he goes 9-3, yes, they'll show him the door. But what are the chances with that roster? But you get down the 25-1s and the 33-1, and that's where it gets interesting for me.
Isn't this is also not whether or not they're going to be fired. It's who's going to be the first coach fired.
Correct.
So, to be your odds to be the first coach fired means that they most likely think you're going to be fired if you're in that top 5 to 7. I mean, it's just about, you're going to get fired. When are you going to get fired? Napier, Pittman, Cristobal, Dave Aranda, Clark Lee, Kalani Sitake at BYU, which I think I would have a hard time believing he gets fired in season, but I do think he's living on borrowed time right now. Beyond that, I mean, what's Cal going to do if they fire Justin Wilcox? I mean, they can't do better than that right now.
That guy's a good coach. He's solid.
Yeah, I mean, they're that is just bizarre that they're going to.
Narduzzi's solid, really good talent evaluator. They're getting ripped in the portal every year with some of their best defensive players. Really good evaluator there, and they're proving they can develop. It's interesting, and I'm not saying Dabo is going to get fired, but I do think he's a 17-point loss to Georgia from his fan base turning on him.
Ooh, that would be a fall from grace.
Because look, whenever you come out and say, I don't need the portal, it doesn't matter, and then FSU wins the conference and was going to play in the playoff until Jordan Travis got hurt, and then if Georgia mauls you a little bit in that game, if Georgia wins by 17, because while Kirby Smart's recruited really well, he's got portal guys too, then the fan base is going to start saying, hey man, you're wrong. Period, point blank, you're wrong. And that's interesting. Brent Venables, I don't know about this year, but he backed himself into a corner with Dylan Gabriel, Jackson Arnold. And that schedule's tough. So I don't think this year. But if he has a down season in Oklahoma fans' eyes, then his seat does become hot going into 2025.
Papa Horn says something really bright here. I agree with him. Bring that back up. Talking about Neil Brown, the guy at West Virginia.
Yeah, I just had it.
I thought he did a really good job last year. He was on the brink of getting tossed. He really was. I mean, West Virginia had not been really good. They've been kind of mediocre. I'm not saying they were great last year, but he made chicken salad out of chicken, you know what, last year. And so I agree with Papa Horn that he did a good coaching job. Yep. And now he's got a quarterback to boot that he's got some confidence in. I would not be betting him. Sam Pittman, Billy Napier, I think are the two. Vanderbilt is another team, by the way, like BYU. I don't see them making a move in season with their coach. I think it's possible that they get let go. I don't think they're going to get let go in season.
And, Aranda Lee Sataki offensively challenged teams last year and in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Baylor just went with that transfer, by the way, as their quarterback. I don't know if you saw that or not. But the kid from Toledo, I think it is.
People are going to have to one of those three guys is going to have to make a move offensively. This is an offensive game. The rules are made for offense in all sports nowadays. It is tough go if you are a bad offensive team nowadays. Really tough go. Doesn't matter how good of a defensive coach you are.
Okay, and then the next thing I wanted to bring to everybody's attention is yesterday some polls came out, and it got me thinking. And we're going to start here with this Flow Sports way too early softball poll. I mean, obviously, softball is still a ways away, but Texas ranked number 1, Oklahoma 2, Florida 3. There's actually, 5 SEC teams in the top 8. But the important thing is Texas is number 1 in that one. And then yesterday, the volleyball poll came out. This is the volleyball coaches poll. Texas first place with 46 of 61 votes. So my question to you guys, with both of those programs doing well, with baseball probably on the up and up now, basketball is hanging around the rim, women's basketball doing very well, football, obviously high expectations. Are we in the golden age of Texas athletics?
It's got a ways to go for me. As an all-around athletic program, tremendous, yes. I mean, won the Directors Cup 3 of the last 4 years. That goes without saying. But you won a baseball national title, basketball went to the Final Four, and football won a national title, all within a 3-year period. That's pretty heady stuff at a university. So headed in the right direction, yes, but even in other sports, obviously swimming, Eddie Reese was dominant at that time too. There were other sports, but your 3 biggest sports won national titles, went to the Final Four in a 3-year period, Bobby. That's tough. I mean, the athletic program as a whole, maybe that's a different conversation, but the notoriety of the 3 is huge.
Yeah, I think to your point, it starts with football, basketball, baseball, because those tend to be the biggest revenue sports. Volleyball, frankly, has become part of that from a revenue perspective. I think, as much as baseball even. But I think what Chris Del Conte has done, as Sandman 23 points out here, he's created an atmosphere of excellence in the Texas athletic department. And so now all they are missing are those three sports to exceed and excel, right? So once football, basketball, and baseball do climb that hill, it's going to be unquestionably the golden age, in my opinion. And so I go back to something that Brian Robison said in our interview with him earlier today, Jerry and Blake. And he talked about how this team went from being a team that was just okay playing along and being in the game to one that started trying to enforce their will. They did it against TCU against Texas Tech late. They did it against Oklahoma State in the championship, Big 12 championship game. They started enforcing their will upon opponents. That's the kind of athletic department you need from a football, basketball, baseball standpoint to join in with these. I think football is making that turn. We need to see what basketball under Rodney Terry is able to do. And frankly, that's why Jim Schlossnagle was hired. Because that ethos had been lacking under David Pierce. It wasn't David Pierce's overall numbers, right, guys? Because he actually went to 3 College World Series, Blake? It was the ethos that we're not building something that is going to dominate. And that's where Texas wants to be. It needs to be if it's going to be truly in that golden age of sports. I do believe, though, that Chris Del Conte, we can talk about the women's athletic department right now if we want to, but that he's got that thing going in a number of different sports right now. It's really, really impressive.
Yeah, look, I think women's sports for sure is in the golden age. As I agree with somebody who said that in the chat. I mean, look, volleyball's going for a three-peat. They have the best player in the country. One of the most underrated athletes in college sports, in my opinion, is Skinner. No doubt. Hellacious talent. And women's basketball is going into the SEC as a top 3 team in the SEC. Well, your other 2 teams in that conversation are South Carolina and LSU. Probably the 2 most dominant coaches nowadays in current women's college basketball. Gino Auriemma has had some really tough luck injury seasons. I actually think they may be the true number 1 team this year if they stay healthy. But Texas is going in a place where they're going to be favored to go to a Final Four and compete for a national championship in women's basketball. I love the women's golf hire from Arizona. Nobody talks about it. I think that was a really strong hire. Former national championship coach at Arizona. She left Texas when they just built her a new facility, kind of like Bob Bowman leaving Arizona State when everything was on the uptick there for Arizona State. They were still like, nah, we're going to Texas here. That says a lot for Texas. But I think women's sports is unbelievable. And you can name others at Texas right now. I think Del Conte deserves a ton of credit for that because people don't leave really good situations. And I know it's money. I know Texas can pay more. You don't leave really good situations where you're an alumni, you're a national championship coach, unless you really, really trust and have faith in the athletic director you're leaving to. That's a big deal. You don't just leave those programs like that unless you have a ton of faith and share a vision with the athletic director at the University of Texas.
Somebody mentioned haven't Texas women's sports been out front like this for quite a bit of time? They have, but not in totality like they are today. I mean, for example, women's soccer lagged for several years. Angie Kelly seems like she's finally got that going in the right direction. Women's basketball kind of was, frankly, until Vic Schaefer came in, it was lost after Jody Conrad for a decade. Not overall lost, but it wasn't what it could have been. So I think that you add in women's rowing, national champions, I mean, all of those things add up to what Texas has done. I am a big believer in, setting a standard and having other young athletes see what success looks like for other teams. I think that is a big piece of the puzzle when you're trying to build out an athletic program whether it's at the University of Texas or Plano High School or Katy High School. You want everybody to succeed, because I think a rising tide lifts all ships. It teaches players how to succeed and what it takes to succeed. By that, all of this reminds me, we need to get Uncle Vic back on for a little coffee and football prior to the season. Blake, you need to put that on your to-do list.
Good news for you, Bobby Burton. He'll most likely be on next week. So there you go.
I love talking to him, man.
I also want to say this about the golden age. During that time for Texas men's sports, they not only were winning at a high level, but they had some. I mean, Houston Street, obviously, we had him on last week. A name synonymous with University of Texas athletics that carried over, won a national championship in baseball. TJ Ford was the Naismith and Wooden Award Player of the Year. He will forever have a picture sitting next to John Wooden accepting the Wooden Award trophy. And then there was Vince Young. I mean, they had guys on magazine covers nationally, national award winners. I mean, so that is the thing too that goes with it. It's yes, the winning is part of it. But it just, and kind of think back to Florida, the run that Florida had from 06 to 08, because really Texas and Florida have been those two overall athletic programs. Yes, Stanford, but I'm talking more of the major sports. They had Tim Tebow. Then they had the basketball team that won back-to-back and forever. People will remember Al Horford, Joakim Noah, national award winner, Tim Tebow, Heisman. You have to have that along with the high level of winning. And Texas at that time had the Naismith and Wooden Player of the Year in basketball. That had never happened in the history of the university, by the way. Kevin Durant has since made it too. And you had Vince Young, who we could all argue should have won a Heisman, could have won a Heisman, but he became the face of college football after they beat USC. And then Houston Street, from a Texas perspective, with the family history, him winning a national title, Texas, from a college baseball perspective, nationwide, was a really big deal. Identifiable athletes for younger kids are big in recruiting. Big.
Yeah. Well, fellas, we do have a lot of super chats that we need to get to, so we're going to jump headfirst into those. We're going to start with this one from UT Boy. Obviously, we are 11 days away from kickoff. Major Applewhite War number 11. So UT Boy says Major was a dog, period.
Hey, I got to say this. When I talked about Major at the opening, I got a text from a friend. Why are you dogging on Major? That's not – I know Major a little bit. It was in jest. I think he's a terrific coach, good person, raising a great family as well. So I am a big Major Applewhite fan. Please understand that.
First-year head coach at South Alabama. Congrats to him. He also has one of the funnier lines. And Kirby Smart, somebody did that. I think the SEC Network did something with Kirby Smart. And Kirby Smart was like, I wouldn't recruit me today. Major once told me the same thing. He said, evaluating quarterbacks, he said, I wouldn't sign me. Didn't have a strong enough arm, wasn't big enough, wasn't mobile. But you know what? Instincts and innate ability to play.
Heart.
Our next one comes from Oury. Thank you for the super chat. He says, on Texas football, thanks for keeping us updated throughout this offseason. I love to see how the channel has grown over the year. Hell of a team you've built, Bobby, and everyone. Best in the business. Hook 'em horns, y'all.
Thank you so much. I mean, Jerry and I really, and Blake, you've been along for it as well. We care about what we do, and we try to bring people in that we think have some similar feelings towards what we do as well. So whether it's Rod Babers has been just terrific, Bob Shipley, Brian Irwin, CJ has been terrific that we've added this year. You guys know that. And if I'm forgetting anybody, please forgive me. Brian Robison, we think will be part of that as well. We have another guy that we think might be part of it as well soon too. We'll have more information for you guys on that later, but appreciate the kind words. We really do care about what we do here.
Our next one comes from Longhorn Football Edits, and I wish I would have saw this earlier when Brian was still on, but and thank you for the super chat. He says, B-Rob catches lunkers.
Yeah, did you see, you hear he had a tackle shop? Did y'all hear that?
That's awesome.
That is awesome. That's like an old man's dream Just put a sign up on your door that says "Gone fishing." You know.
Hey, by the way, in the chat, some people are kind of having some fun with Rhett Bomar. What's interesting is Rhett Bomar is the offensive coordinator at Conroe High School. So he is in the high school coaching ranks. Obviously, his father, Jerry Bomar, is a longtime head coach in Texas. So for those wondering where Rhett is, he's the offensive coordinator at Conroe High. And yes, he'll joke around about the hit if you ever see him.
Hey, Miguel Rodriguez, I see you put in a super chat, but there's no question or comment attached to it. So if you'll send it regular, I will fix that for you. And then this next super chat, guys, comes from David. Thank you, David. He said, I heard Bobby say in last night's live stream that Texas is 1 or 2 in NIL spending. Alabama hired a GM. Should Texas hire a GM?
I think that Texas probably – so Brandon Harris is the Texas GM, but it's not the GM in the typical NFL sense. And I tried to explain this at the time. Steve Sarkisian has kept a more he's more in charge at the top than maybe letting some people oversee his program as a GM altogether. That's just how the structure is. Some people like to be the GM and the head coach. That's what it really is right now, in my opinion, at Texas. That doesn't mean it diminishes what Brandon Harris or his team do from an evaluation, recruiting standpoint, et cetera. It's just how it's structured at Texas. I think that a lot of teams are going to go in this direction, given the new situation that we have with the outlay of NIL dollars from the university. So I think Sark's probably going to look at doing something like that in the offseason. I do not see a need to do it today. Like Steve Sarkisian needs to be concentrating. He's going to be the one that makes the hire. He needs to be the guy that is concentrating on football right now and recruiting. He doesn't need to be worrying about hiring a GM. That's just my opinion. If he were, he would have done that. And I say GM, a monetary GM. There's a difference between a player personnel GM and a monetary GM. And that's what Alabama hired.
Hey, Blake, I'm going to bring this one up because a lot of times guys have some great facts and stats on this.
And this is actually his super chat.
Okay.
So thank you, Miguel.
Miguel Rodriguez, hi, guys. On the Texas volleyball subject, they have not left the top 10 rankings since September 9th, 2010. 217 straight weeks. Bama-like dynasty. Whew, or a Tiger Woods-like run. That's impressive right there.
Yeah, that's insane.
They have a new middle that came in from Kentucky, Reagan Rutherford, that takes the place of O'Neal. And I think that, just to your point, you and I were talking about this last night, Jerry. You talk about a face of a program. Maddie Skinner is that face of the program for women's volleyball. She is one of those transcendent athletes that can carry a program on her back a little bit. Not that other players at Texas aren't really, really good, because they are. Texas has a great volleyball roster, great volleyball team. She's a little bit of a freak roster or freak athlete, and one of those people that I think we'll see in the Olympics in years to come, et cetera.
You know how hard it is to have back-to-back level talents like that? So TJ Ford won a Naismith in basketball, and then Kevin Durant a few years later. But there was years in between where LaMarcus Aldridge, PJ Tucker, those guys didn't win it. Texas volleyball had Eggleston and Skinner on the same team, first of all, but they've gone – they have for me, they have the best player in college volleyball. They've gone from Eggleston to Skinner. That's really hard to do in sports, to have back-to-back best players. So that's saying something for Jared Elliott. And I'm not an aficionado, right? I'm not a volleyball player, but she's as good from the 10-foot line as I've seen in the college game. Dennis Donaldson. Anyone know the name of the place Jerry's getting his shirts? Bobby, I'll let you tell everybody about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a 40 Acres collection. You can get them through the University of Co-op. 40 Acres is a sponsor of our show, and they do a tremendous job. He is the guy that runs it is a big Longhorn fan, has a great time doing it. His name is Jeff Clark. But 40 Acres collection available at the Co-op. Hope you guys take a chance and look at them. By the way, Jerry, we're going to be at the Co-op the Friday before the game. I want to make a couple announcements also. And I just got, this is something from the Dallas, Texas X's. I literally got a text while I'm doing it. They have the fall football kickoff at 5:30 on Thursday in downtown Dallas or near downtown Dallas at the place called the Happiest Hour. Doug Rice said to please email him at bash@dallastexas.org, dallastexasx's.org, bash, and you will get a free ticket to our event on the August 22nd happy hour event at Happiest Hour. Myself, Alex Okafor, going to be there. I think Tony Hills may be there as well, Jerry. We'll have some fun. Again, wow. That's over there. Also, the following Thursday night, you and I, Jerry, are down in Houston at Little Woodrow's in Webster, sponsored by our friends over at Yingling Flight and Faust Distributing. Please join us there at 6 o'clock. We'll have a live stream going on, and then we'll mingle afterwards from 6 to 8 down at Little Woodrow's. That's a week from Thursday as well.
Texas fans remember the Tony Hills that was an NFL player for a long time. But if they didn't follow recruiting in his early years at Texas, Bobby, they may not know Tony Hills almost had to walk away. He had some nerve damage and drop foot for a while after his ACL surgery. It was in question for a while if he was going to be able to come back. So the fact that he got back and had the career he did, I hope you get the chance to talk to him and get him on the show. We can talk to him about everything he went through there, because it would be a great time. Because look, Cedric Baxter I believe is he having his knee surgery today, Bobby?
No, yeah, it's Tuesday. Yeah, he is.
Cedric Baxter has a PCL, LCL, not your normal knee surgery. So these guys, Jordan Whittington fought back from injuries. It is doing well in the NFL, obviously. I think Tony Hills will have a pretty cool story to tell.
Tony Hills, at one point in this, I don't want to violate any HIPAA trust or whatever, but literally, Jerry, that injury that happened to him his last game, his senior year.
Yep.
It was in the Dome, in the Astrodome. And he showed up on campus, and he was a 5-star recruit. I thought he was one of the top 2 or 3 players in Texas that year, just absolutely dominating. Played tight end, but I knew almost at the outset he would be a tackle. I've got to say this with him that is so awesome. I was told in his freshman year that Tony Hills had a 5% chance of ever playing football effectively again. That's how much nerve damage he had. 5% chance of ever playing again. Then he made it a career. So, talk about overcoming adversity and what it means. Happy for him that he was able to do that.
All right. Before we move on to these last couple of questions and super chats, Jerry, will you tell everybody out there about Gooder?
I only can if I put them on. That's the way the gamer goes right here. So look, somebody said yesterday, these are great for marathon runners, joggers. I agree. I cycle in these when my fat arse gets out there on the bike these days. The bike's screaming no, but I'm screaming yes. But here, Gooders. Let's talk about Gooders. New product launch, the Retro G. These aren't them, but these are the same because there's no slip, no bounce. The Retro G's are what you want to check out at Gooder.com with that code on Texas, all caps. New vintage inspired shades. As always, no slip, no bounce. The Retro G's are available in 4 colors. The favorite name of the bunch is Threaten Me with a Good Time. That sounds like a UT boy super chat, doesn't it? All right. What will make these Gooders unique, different, or better? That's what I'm here to tell you. When you're using your Gooders this summer, let's share a bit about why they're the perfect summer accessory. Somebody talked about being a jogger, a runner, and wearing their Gooders. I'm telling you, cycling, I don't worry about these things. I had them on in the ocean, Jensen Beach, Stewart, in Florida this summer. Now is the perfect time to get them because what do you want? Protect your eyes. $25 a pair. Roll it into DKR. You got your 5.0. You got your Gooders. You're ready to roll this football season. On Gooder.com, on Texas, all caps. Use that code on Texas, all caps, for free shipping. Gooder offers that 30-day money-back guarantee, which you can just throw that in the trash, and 100% satisfaction, which you can tell everybody in the chat you have. Again, Gooder.com, on Texas, all caps, for free shipping.
Thank you, Jerry. And we're going to jump over to a couple of super chats here. We're going to start with this one from Longhorn Frenzy 1. Thank you again, Longhorn Frenzy. He says, my fiance actually thinks I'm traveling to Webster to see her on the 28th, but actually I'm headed over to Little Woodrose to hang out with Bobby and Jerry.
We'll have fun. We'll have fun. Like, come on out. If you guys down in Houston, give us a call or come on out. We'll have a little bit of fun, have some cocktails, and hang out, talk a little football. Should be fun.
And then,
and here, hey guys, wait, before we do that, here's that email address. I want to write it down so everybody had it. If you want to meet in Thursday, email bash@dallastexasx's.org for a free ticket to the event Thursday at Happiest Hour. That's bash@dallastexasx's.org. I will add this, put OTF in the subject line. They want me to tell you to put OTF in the subject line. The first 10 people that request this will get a free ticket. bash@dallastexasx's.org.
I got to bring this up because it made me laugh. David, I hope his girlfriend's not watching this live stream.
Oh man!
And Brandon Huey made me laugh too, but I can't. We're not bringing that one up.
We got 2 super chats before we get out of here. Slick Rick, thank you for the super chat. Does it annoy y'all Texas is not at their best the past 2 years? Losing Brooks last year and Baxter this year, I would have loved to see Texas full throttle entering the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's tough. It's tough luck. I mean, no doubt. I mean. But think about how many things we can look at in sports, even in just college football. If Alabama doesn't have the injury issues at wide receiver, does Kirby have 2 national championships or 1? I mean, so the injuries are part of it. And that you still got to get there. That's why you recruit to the level Sark has, whether that be high school or the portal. And that's why player development is always maybe the most underrated thing and maybe the most key thing. You only have true depth. You have recruiting class rankings depth all you want, but player development creates real depth. And this is where it's so important for a program is injuries are going to happen. It's inevitable. But to that point, yeah, you'd have loved to seen Texas with Jonathan Brooks, Bobby, and Cedric Baxter going against Washington last year. Would that have changed the outcome of the game? We'll never know. I mean, obviously think back to Colts injury in 09 or 10, I guess it technically was.
Yeah, injuries suck, but you have to deal with them. It's life. It's football, and so I think that you're right in that it sucks that it happened, but you can't afford to mope about it. You have to address it and move on. I do think Steve Sarkisian's doing that, by the way. I feel confident about how he's handling this with the team. It doesn't mean it's not going to hurt because Texas doesn't have an experienced big back. But thankfully, they did recruit well and added Jarrett Gibson, who hopefully, Jerry, can step up and be that big back for Texas this year, especially in short yardage situations.
So I think Ryan Nelson, here's a comment. I don't see Texas in the SEC title game. We have to win Michigan game to make the playoffs. I see us losing 2 SEC games now through fall camp. I think that's kind of where everybody's at that I'm talking to. 10-2 is the number for me to comfortably get in the playoff. That's why I think the Michigan game, and we talked about, so we got a couple weeks more to talk about this. It's such a big game for me. Because if Texas beats Michigan, they have a 2-game margin for error with a tougher league schedule than Texas has been playing. Bottom line. So that Michigan game looms very large in this first year of a 12-team playoff. Because if Texas beats Michigan, you have a couple of cushion games in there. Maybe you just have a bad game. You have a 4-turnover game. Something doesn't go your way. You have a couple of injuries that you have to sit people out. And knowing that you don't want to, knowing that if you drop a game, your season's not over. There's the different decisions that are going to be made by college football coaches now than have been because of a 12-team playoff and eventually 16-team playoff in terms of injuries and how losing one game does not wipe your season out. But beating Michigan is so key for me. I've been saying it. I'm going to keep saying it because a win at Michigan gives you 2-game cushion to still make the playoff. And that to me is that's my goal this season, is to make the playoff. Because I think Texas will be the only team to do it back-to-back years, unless Kalen DeBoer does it in year one, which I don't want to say he can't. Okay, obviously he's proven everybody wrong and continues to, but there's a chance Texas could be the only team to make the playoff. The last 4 team and first 12 team. We'll see.
And our last one for today comes from Jerry's Jack Links. He says, and thank you, Jerry's Jack Links. An interesting, underrated storyline is that Quinn possibly having a little extra something for Michigan, being that he was a Buckeye. He's always been a Horn at heart, but your thoughts?
I don't know that Ryan Day has anything special for Michigan based on the last 2 years offensively. So I don't know the answer to that. I don't know that he has anything special for Michigan that Steve Sarkisian didn't draw up on the whiteboard. This is Sark versus Michigan, not Ryan Day or anything that they brought to the table.
Well, I think
go ahead, Blake.
I think he's asking, like, since he went to Ohio State, do you think he has a little extra hatred in his heart for Michigan?
Maybe a little bit.
Maybe a little, but I think he would. I think the one bad thing for Quinn going pro after this year is he didn't get a chance to play Ohio State.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's right. That's right. I didn't even think about that, dude.
By the way, I want to say this about Michigan too. I think one of the most interesting things about Michigan this year, and we talk about the game and the matchups, and we all have our thoughts on the matchups and the key matchups and the keys to the game and whatnot. I think the thing I'm looking for when I look at Michigan right now is one, as somebody mentioned, Alex Orji, the quarterback from Saxe High for Michigan. Is Michigan's going to have to run the football? We all know that, and he RPO with him off of that. Are they going to play 2 quarterbacks? But I think more important than all that, where's Michigan at? Last year, they thrived in a chaotic situation with a common goal at the end of the year. And it was a long-time goal coming. They had rough years against Ohio State. Harbaugh and Connor Stallions turned the tables. And then, their coach was under fire. The program's under fire. The biggest cheating scandal in the history of college sports, probably. But they had this. They lived in this chaos, and they survived and excelled in chaos for that common goal. And not that the guys back on this team don't have goals, but that so much has changed since then. And now they have a little chaos returning, but they climb that mountaintop, and there's a lot of guys playing for NFL draft stock. Don't get me wrong. They're tremendous players, but where is that locker room at? Because you knew what they were playing for last year. Where are they at in that chaos again this year? I think that's going to be so interesting to see with the Michigan team, because that's something that factors into a game in a season that we don't talk about enough probably with teams.
And one other one before we get out of here. This one from Brandon Huey. Thank you, Brandon. He says, on Texas football tailgate, where will it be next week? Flat Creek or Surly?
We're doing both, actually. So we're going to be 1 hour from basically, I think the game starts at 2:30. We'll be at Flat Creek from about 12 to 1:30, and then we're moseying on over to the Surly tailgate at around 1:30. You can catch us at both places. We'll have a good time. Again, just come on out. The Flat Creek Estate Winery tailgate will be in the Wine Garden. It's a new setup that Texas has this year. The north side of the stadium, in between the Hall of Fame and the Bass Concert Hall, on that lawn there. And then also the Surly tailgate. It's the same place it was last year. It's up on the LBJ lawn. Please join us. We'll have some fun out there and get ready for 11 days away, man. I can't believe it. I'm ready.
It is hard to believe.
Hey, Brandon Huey's asking about a super chat.
That's what we just asked.
Oh, that was a super chat.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football. We want to thank HelloFresh, Gooder, and Manscaped for sponsoring today's show. Thank you all for tuning in for the great super chats. Bobby, I know you got some more stuff later today. Players obviously meeting with the media after practice today. You want to get
players meet with the media. Jerry and CJ have the recruiting breakdown. Then we have the live stream tonight. Don't forget to check us out on ontexasfootball.com. The discussion's getting really good over there. Jerry posted an article this morning. If you didn't hear the recruiting portion and came in late, he posted a percentage article on all the players that Texas continues to recruit right now. I thought that was excellent. Join us for the discussion on texasfootball.com. Remember, use the code OTFOG for 1 year, just for a 1 year subscription to On Texas Football.
Can't beat that. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We're now over 57,000 followers. That's absolutely insane. We can't thank you enough for tuning in each and every day with us right here on Texas Football. And we will be back same time, same place tomorrow. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.